All right, let's cut the crap and get right into it. Today, we're diving into some seriously mind-bending shit. Group action.
Yeah, group action.
We've got a whole stack of papers here.
A whole stack, geez.
All about how groups of transformations can screw with a set of objects.
It's a real head trip.
We're talking symmetries, shuffling cards, even that time travel crap in physics.
All that good stuff.
That's the kind of wild territory we're exploring today, folks.
Buckle up.
So, expert speaker, for those of us who haven't been hitting the math textbooks lately,
Right.
break it down for us. What the hell's a group action?
You know, without all the jargon that makes my brain hurt.
Yeah, no jargon.
Okay, so imagine you've got a set of rules, right?
Okay, rules. I like rules.
That's your group.
Got it.
And then you've got a bunch of objects just hanging out.
Objects, like what? Give me an example.
Anything, really. Numbers, shapes, whatever.
All right, so we got rules and objects.
Now, a group action is basically a way to use those rules to mess with those objects.
Mess with them how?
You can move them around, change their order, flip them, rotate them. You name it.
So it's all about transformations.
Exactly.
All right, so we've got transformations going on, but you mentioned left and right group actions earlier. What's the difference there?
Ah, that's where things get interesting.
Yeah.
Left action is like you hit it with transformation H and then bam, you follow up with G.
A 1-2 punch.
Exactly. But with right action, you got to switch it up.
How so?
You do G first, then H. The sequence can totally change the outcome.
It's all about the order.
It's like putting on your socks and shoes.
Socks and shoes.
Yeah, you know, left action is socks first, then shoes. Makes sense.
Right.
Right action is trying to cram those shoes on first, then the socks. Totally fucked up.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
Right. This is not going to work.
So let's get down to brass tacks here. Can you give us some real-world examples of this group action voodoo?
Something I can actually wrap my head around.
Yeah, something concrete.
Okay, well, have you ever flipped a coin?
Flipped a coin. Who hasn't?
That's a group action right there.
Really?
Yeah, you've got this group called Z2Z, which basically means flip or don't flip.
Z2Z. What the hell is that?
It's just a fancy way to say we're working with remainders after dividing by 2. Think of it like a clock, but with only 2 numbers, 0 and 1. You keep going around, and the only results you get are 0 or 1.
Like heads or tails?
Exactly. Heads or tails, 0 or 1. It's acting on that coin, flipping it between those 2 possibilities.
Damn, never thought of flipping a coin like that.
It's all group action, man.
All right, what else?
Think about rotating a square.
Okay, rotating a square.
You can turn it 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 270 degrees, or not at all.
Right.
That's the dihedral group D4 at work.
D4. Another fancy name.
It's just a way to label this group of transformations that only work on a square. The D stands for dihedral, which means it's all about symmetries of a polygon, in this case, a square.
Yep.
And the 4, well, that's just the number of sides, and got 8 elements representing all those rotations and flips.
So these groups are like rule books for messing with shapes and objects.
That's a good way to put it.
And you mentioned something about vector spaces earlier, too.
Ah, vector spaces.
I vaguely remember those from college, but refresh my memory.
They were probably a blur back then.
Yeah, after all those beers.
Right, so vector spaces are like collections of arrows.
Arrows. Like Cupid's arrows.
Not quite. These are mathematical arrows that you can stretch, shrink, add, and multiply.
Okay, getting a bit more abstract now.
They're used to represent things that have both magnitude and direction, like velocity or force.
Right, right.
Now there's this group called the General Linear Group, or GLN, K for short.
JLNK.
Catchy, isn't it?
Sure.
It's like the ultimate tool for messing with those vector spaces. It can stretch them, squish them, rotate them, whatever you want.
So GLN carrying K is like the ultimate vector space bully.
Pretty much. But instead of just picking on them, it actually helps us understand how those spaces work.
And how they relate to other mathematical ideas. Okay, I think I'm starting to get the hang of this group action thing. But what about those other terms you threw out there?
Which ones?
Orbits and stabilizers. What the hell are those?
Good questions.
Yeah, I'm full of them today.
So imagine an object getting tossed around by all those transformations in a group.
Okay, tossing it around.
The path that object takes, that's its orbit.
It's like its journey.
Right. Like if you rotate a square, each corner is going to end up in all 4 corners eventually.
So the orbit shows all the possible positions.
Exactly. It's like a map of all the places that object can go under the influence of the group.
Got it. And what about the stabilizer?
The stabilizer is like the object's bodyguard.
Bodyguard.
Yeah, it's the set of transformations that keep the object exactly where it is.
They don't change it at all?
Nope. Like if you rotate a square 180 degrees, it looks the same, right?
Yeah.
So that rotation is part of the stabilizer for that square.
So the stabilizer keeps things chill.
Exactly.
All the orbit is all about exploration.
You got it. They're two sides of the same coin. And get this, there's a mathematical link between the size of the group, the size of an object's orbit, and the size of its stabilizer.
A link.
It's called the orbit stabilizer theorem.
Another theorem.
I know. Lots of big words today.
You mentioned some other heavy hitters, too.
Like what?
The orbit stabilizer theorem, yeah, and Burnside's lemma.
Oh yeah, those are some good ones.
What the fuck are those all about?
Well, the orbit stabilizer theorem, like I said, it connects those three things. The orbit, the stabilizer, and the size of the whole group.
It's like a mathematical equation.
Pretty much. And Burnside's lemma, that bad boy, helps us count the number of unique orbits in a group action.
Count of the orbits.
Yeah, think of it like trying to figure out how many different ways you can arrange beads on a necklace. But you gotta remember that just rotating the necklace doesn't actually change the arrangement.
So Burnside's lemma helps us avoid double counting.
You got it. It's a clever way to account for those symmetries.
All right. I think I need a beer after that one. This group action stuff is starting to fry my brain.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
But we're just getting started. We've got a lot more ground to cover in this deep dive.
Stay tuned. All right, let's crack on with this Burnside's lemma thing.
My brain's still smoking from all that group theory talk.
It's a real mind bender, but stick with me here.
Keep it simple, please. I'm not a mathematician.
Okay, picture this. You're painting the faces of a cube.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You got a bunch of different colors to work with, and you want to know how many unique ways you can paint the damn thing?
Sounds simple enough.
But there's a catch.
There's always a catch.
If you just spin the cube around, it's still the same paint job, right?
Yeah, you're just looking at it from a different angle.
Exactly. And that's where Burnside's lemma comes in. It tells us that to count the really unique colorings, we need to consider the symmetries of the cube.
The symmetries.
All the different ways you can rotate that sucker.
Okay, so how do we actually use this lemma? I'm still a little lost.
It's all about averaging.
Averaging what?
The number of colorings that stay the same under each symmetry.
So some rotations won't change much.
Right.
But others will scramble those colors like crazy.
Exactly. We add up the number of fixed colorings for each symmetry, divide by the total number of symmetries, and bam, that gives us the actual number of distinct colorings.
So we're kind of looking at the paint job from every possible angle.
Right.
And then averaging out those perspectives to get the right count.
That's a pretty good way to put it.
So Burnside's lemma is like a shortcut for counting distinct arrangements.
It helps us avoid counting the same thing a million times just because it's been flipped or rotated.
Okay, so this group action stuff isn't just some abstract math bullshit.
It's got real-world applications.
It can actually help us solve real-world problems.
Like making sure you don't screw up your next cube painting project.
Exactly.
But seriously, it pops up everywhere. From chemistry to computer science to physics. It's like a secret language that governs the structure of the universe.
Damn, that's heavy. So who came up with all this crazy shit anyway?
Who invented group action?
Yeah, was it some crazy-ass math genius who lived in a basement and never saw the light of day?
Well, like most things in math, it wasn't just one person.
It was a team effort.
More like a bunch of ideas that different mathematicians came up with over time. Guys like Lagrange and Cauchy were some of the first to mess around with permutations and symmetries.
Those names ring a bell.
They were seriously hardcore math nerds.
I can respect that.
Real pioneers of abstract algebra. They realized that symmetries could be described with math.
That's pretty wild.
And they started developing tools to study them.
So they were all about finding patterns in how things transform.
Exactly. Figuring out the rules of the game for messing with shapes and stuff. And as mathematicians dug deeper, they realized that the concept of a group was crucial for understanding how transformations work together.
So group action is like the love child of group theory and transformation studies.
You got it. It's a beautiful mashup. And then you have guys like Évariste Galois.
Galois. Wasn't he that dude who got killed in a duel when he was like 20 years old?
Yeah, that's the one. A true mathematical rock star. Died way too young. But he left behind a legacy that's still blowing minds today.
What did he do?
His work completely revolutionized algebra and had a huge impact on the development of group action. He used group theory to solve problems that had been stumping mathematicians for centuries.
Damn, that's some serious dedication. So group action's been around for a while.
It has a rich history.
But is it still relevant today? Or is it just some dusty old theory that nobody gives a shit about anymore?
Hell no, it's more relevant than ever. In fact, it's become even more important with the rise of computers and all this complex system stuff.
Computers. How the hell does group action fit in with computers?
Think about computer graphics. You need to be able to rotate and transform objects in 3D space, right?
Yeah, that's how you create those amazing video game worlds and CGI movies.
Exactly. And all of that is group action, baby. It's the math that makes those graphics possible. And in fields like cryptography, group action is used to design those unbreakable encryption algorithms, the ones that keep our data safe from hackers and spies. It's also used to study the structure of molecules in chemistry, the movement of physical systems, even the behavior of social networks.
And this shit really is everywhere.
It's one of those fundamental mathematical ideas that underlies so much of what we see and do. It's like the Matrix, man. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Okay, so group action is like the secret code of the universe.
I like that.
But how can we actually use this stuff in our everyday lives? I mean, I'm not a mathematician. I can barely balance my checkbook.
You don't have to be a math whiz to appreciate the power of group action. It can help you think about problems in a whole new way.
Give me an example.
Okay, let's say you're designing a website, right?
I'm designing a website.
You want it to look good on a phone, a tablet, and a desktop computer. You can use group action to analyze the symmetries of your design and make sure it looks balanced and visually appealing, no matter how it's viewed.
So group action can help me design a website that doesn't piss people off when they're browsing on their phones.
Precisely. It's all about finding those underlying structures and patterns that make things work well. Or think about music.
Music.
Group action can be used to analyze musical structures and understand the patterns and symmetries in melodies and harmonies.
Damn, I never thought of music in terms of math.
Music and math have always been intertwined. It's all about finding those underlying structures and patterns that create beauty and harmony.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. Group action is like a hidden language that unlocks a deeper understanding of the world around us.
I couldn't have said it better myself. It's a journey of discovery. And the more you learn, the more you realize how mind-blowing math can be.
I'm definitely feeling a bit smarter already.
That's the spirit. Never stop being curious. Who knows what other crazy mathematical concepts are out there, just waiting to be explored.
All right, my brain needs a break. We've covered a lot of ground today.
From the basics of group action to some pretty mind-blowing applications.
But we're not done yet. There's still more to uncover in this deep dive. All right, let's finish this group action beatdown. My brain is still throbbing from all this math, but I'm ready for the final round.
Yeah, let's wrap up this deep dive. We'll talk about some of the crazy ways group action shows up in different fields.
Hit me with some more mind-blowing examples.
Let's start with physics.
Physics. All right, lay it on me.
In particle physics, symmetries are like the holy grail.
Symmetries? Like what?
The standard model,
Refresh my memory.
the one that describes all the fundamental forces and particles in the universe.
Okay, yeah, I remember.
It's built on the idea of symmetry groups.
Whoa, hold up. Symmetries in physics. Explain that shit like I'm 5.
Okay. Think about a snowflake.
The snowflake.
It's got that 6-fold symmetry. You can rotate it by 60 degrees and it looks the same.
Yeah, snowflakes are pretty symmetrical.
Well, particles have symmetries too.
Particles.
You can flip them, rotate them, even switch them with other particles. Sometimes the laws of physics stay exactly the same.
So those tiny-ass particles are like snowflakes. Just symmetrical as hell.
In a way, yeah. The symmetries of particles determine how they interact, how they behave. And those symmetries are described by, you guessed it, group action.
No way. So group action is like the secret code to understanding the universe at its most fundamental level.
You got it. It's one of the most powerful tools we have.
Yeah.
For making sense of the universe and all its crazy complexity.
Okay, that's some heavy shit. What about other fields? How's group action used in chemistry?
Well, in chemistry, it's used to study the structure of molecules.
Molecules?
Yeah, lots of molecules have symmetry, like the benzene ring.
The benzene ring. I vaguely remember those from high school chemistry.
They were a pain in the ass to draw.
Yeah.
But their symmetry makes them incredibly stable and important in organic chemistry. We can analyze those symmetries using, you guessed it, group action.
Group action keeps popping up everywhere. It helps us understand the properties of molecules, how they react, even how they interact with light. It's like having X-ray vision for molecules.
So group action is like a chemist's best friend.
Helps them make sense of all those crazy molecular structures.
Exactly. Okay, I'm seeing how this group action thing is like a Swiss Army knife of mathematics. It's useful for all sorts of stuff. But what about something a bit more abstract, like music?
Music.
You mentioned it earlier, but I'm still curious, how does group action fit into that?
Well, music and math have always been connected.
In what way?
Think about a simple melody
Okay, got a melody in my head.
that repeats with variations.
Okay, I added some variations.
Those variations can be seen as transformations of the original melody. And the set of all possible transformations, that forms a group, the group of musical transformations.
So each variation is like a different way of messing with the original melody using group action, like a musical remix.
Exactly. By studying the group of musical transformations, we can understand the structure of the piece, how the different parts relate to each other. It can help us appreciate the composer's choices, how they create musical meaning.
Damn, so you're telling me that math can explain the beauty of music.
It really is. Group action helps us see those hidden patterns and structures that make music so captivating. It's like a mathematical lens for appreciating art.
All right, my brain is officially fried. I think we've reached peak group action for one day. Thanks for the mind-blowing journey, expert speaker.
No problem. Happy to do it.
I feel like I just went through a mathematical car wash. My brain is clean, shiny, and slightly terrified.
Group action is a hell of a trip.
It's definitely a trip. And to all you listeners out there, thanks for tuning into this wild ride through group action. Remember, math doesn't have to be boring. It can be mind-bending, exhilarating, and maybe even a little bit terrifying. Keep those brains buzzing, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.